All right. Welcome back. This is episode 16 of the Feel for the Game podcast. And we just had a crazy week. We had a lot of big upsets that really shifted the top 25 going into playoff prediction week. There's a lot of really good games to cover. And I feel like we kind of reviewed most of the good ones from last week. So we're going to go ahead and start with Vanderbilt versus Texas, which is one of the big games that we were looking forward to seeing. Vandy goes to Austin and loses this game 34-31, but that is not how this game played out in the first three quarters. You would think it was very close just if you look at the score at the end of the game, but Vanderbilt was behind the eight ball pretty much the whole game.
And they were down 34-10, and they outscored Texas 21-0 in the fourth quarter to give themselves a chance.
Yeah, and they had that crazy call on the 2 point that genuinely had no business being converted. Like he didn't even get close to the
Genuinely
ball.
one of the worst calls I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know how that was upheld.
Yeah, as a certified Vandy homer, obviously I wanted that to count, but everything in me was like, this is so wrong. Like,
It
this should
was
not count. Like,
not even remotely close. I don't know how
if
that
Vandy
happened.
gets that onside and somehow wins the game, Texas fans are calling for every single SEC officiating crew to be terminated. Like, which honestly, at this point, with how things have been, is not the worst idea ever. We'll get to a game in a little bit where I thought officiating was absolutely ridiculous, but this game was interesting in the fourth quarter because I felt like Vanderbilt just never really got their chance to exploit Texas's defense in the first couple quarters. They had a couple unlucky breaks, and Texas just kept running the ball and extensions of the run plays that went for big yardage, and Vanderbilt just did not have the ball most of the first half. It felt like if they did have the ball, they probably would be able to move it, but they just couldn't get the ball in their hands. Defense was on the field like the whole game. And then finally, when they got off the field, they started to score points.
Kind of felt like the Missouri game with how their offense was doing, but minus their defense playing as well as they did in that one.
Yeah, I mean, Pavia ended up throwing for over 300 yards. Like, I think it was like 345, and then he ran for another 50 and had four total touchdowns in this game. It was his best game of the whole season in Austin. So, all credit due. He actually had a really good game. He protected the ball for
I
the
wonder
most
how
part.
many of those stats were like clawing back into the game though. Once it was
Most of it
34 to
was.
10,
I think the
probably a
first half, I
lot.
think he had like 150 total yards and a touchdown, which wasn't bad. Like, thought he played well most of the game. There wasn't a point in the game where I thought he was playing bad. It's just that Vanderbilt was behind the eight ball and their defense got stuck on the field. And Texas, with the way that they play offense, they do have good skill position players, but if they can start to run the ball, they really open up their offense, and it gets really frustrating because then you got to start committing to the box, and then they start to spread the ball out wide on you, which is what they did to Mississippi State, where they had that play to Ryan Wingo out of the backfield. They scored on. They did the same thing to Vanderbilt, and I think you mentioned
The
this
first
stat
play
to
of the
me.
game went for 75-yard touchdown.
Yeah,
They did that to us. It was a 60-yard gain.
yeah, you mentioned this to me in the state game. I think Arch had like almost all of his yards were after the catch.
Most of them, yeah.
So most of his passes were at or behind the line of scrimmage, and he still was going for over 300 yards. And he had a couple decent throws in the state game that were down the field late, and then I think he had a couple against Vandy, but the majority of his passes are from Yak and being thrown at or behind the line of scrimmage. So really, you can't be blaming it on the playmakers like we have been because they're creating all the yards, which is in the preseason how I figured Texas would be able to score points. So they're kind of reverting back to what Steve Sarkisian wants to see out of this offense, and that's why they're now winning these games, even though they're really close. I think that that win against Mississippi State is what propelled them to have the momentum in this game. If they had lost to State, I don't know that they would have been able to be sustainable in this game with how they ended up finishing it. Odd seeing them close out a game last week on the road where they were behind bad and then they come back and win in a clutch way. And then they get up big at home and then they almost blow the lead.
Yeah.
It's just a weird team chemistry right now, but if they can continue to play the way they're playing, they'll give everybody some trouble. I just don't know if they'll be able to win at least one out of the next two against Georgia and A&M. Those games will be tough.
So Arch had 70 air yards on 25 completions against Vanderbilt.
That's terrible. I genuinely don't understand.
If they can win doing that, then
I mean, that's what you
credit
got to
to
do
them.
sometimes, and you got to give credit to Sarkeesian for what he's doing with what he's got. That's where the credit is due. I think that the reason why Texas isn't as good as they can be is their inability to throw down the field, and they are very inconsistent running the ball. But I mean, they did win this game. It was a top 10 win. They needed this one bad. I obviously picked Vanderbilt. I was going to keep rolling with them until I was proven wrong, and I still feel good about Vanderbilt right now. I love how they finished the game. The fight in this team is legit. So They still could make it into the playoffs as a two-loss team if they can beat Tennessee to finish out the season. Gotta watch
for
them.
sure.
But final score there, 34-31.
I
Texas
did
gets a big
find
win.
another interesting stat that I did not notice. Vandy only had 58 rushing yards in this game.
Yeah, they were boxed up. They threw the ball all over Texas, though. Texas's pass defenses, this is one of the worst Texas pass defenses I've seen in several years. Like going back to when they were in the Big 12 and they had Sam Ellinger and they had a couple bad defenses that really just could not help them win big games. But ever since they joined the SEC, their defense has been really solid. So it is interesting to see that fall off there at that position group. But overall, I thought this was a really good game. I'm glad Vanderbilt ended up making it close in the end because it was really sad when I saw the score up. I think they were like it was maybe 34 to
10
10
was
at
the
one
worst we
point.
got. Yeah.
It's crazy. Vanderbilt almost gets the onside to have a chance, which is absolutely ridiculous. But really good game. Sad that Vanderbilt dropped this one, but they still have the rest of their season in front of them. The next game we got is Georgia versus Florida. So I figured this game would be close. We talked about this one just like last year. It just felt kind of the same to me. Florida had nothing to lose. Georgia had everything to lose. Neutral site, big game. Fans always show up for this one. World's largest outdoor cocktail party. And DJ Lagway starts off super hot this game, playing really good. I mean, he does what he does. He misses couple throws every now and then, but he makes other people miss tackles in the backfield, across the line of scrimmage, running the ball. He's just really good at making people miss tackles and extending plays like that. Whether you're the guy running the ball to get yards, or whether you're behind the line extending the play, is what can be so frustrating when you're playing Florida. Like Ole Miss, really the main reason we lost in Gainesville last year is because we couldn't bring him down when it mattered. So, with all credit due, Florida played pretty solid in this game, protecting the ball for the most part. Georgia was kind of behind the chain on this one and eventually took the lead later in the game. I think they were down 20 to 17 and found a touchdown run with Chauncey Bowens. I like Georgia for the rest of the season, probably to win out. But at the same time, when they play teams like Georgia Tech that can score from just about anywhere on the field in any way possible, they're going to give up a lot of points. This was probably their better defensive performances of the season, and they didn't really do much as far as like creating havoc defensively or making big turnovers. They still won. So big win for Georgia. I think Carson Beck being at Miami playing the way he's playing right now is really funny to watch because we're going to get to that game in a moment. Georgia is got to be feeling pretty good about having Gunnar Stockton the way he's playing.
Yeah, I would think they have the better guy right now, for
Yeah,
sure.
I think
At the
there's
moment.
really no doubt unless Gunnar Stockton takes a massive decline in the
And
next couple of
just
weeks, which I don't see happening.
yeah, just a guy that fits their program and what they're about so much better too.
We talked about that at the beginning of the season. I just didn't see this kind of playing style being as elevated as it has been from Gunnar Stockton. The run game was kind of what I keyed in on with him being kind of the mold that you want to see from their quarterback position to give them that extra advantage that they usually don't have at that position. But his passing game has been really solid. So, I mean, the development of that position there for Georgia has been huge. The run game's starting to come on for them. They're probably going to end up in the SEC championship against either Alabama or A&M at this point. That's who I would have in there. I think I think the Texas Georgia game, the Texas Georgia game, and then Texas A&M game will probably be the two deciding games on who ends up in the SEC championship. This game was really close though. Florida is probably going to give Ole Miss everything they want here in a couple of weeks. Probably the last really big test for Ole Miss before the Egg Bowl. So really exciting game. Georgia wins in a close one. Next game, we got OU at Tennessee. In all complete honesty, I did not see Oklahoma winning this game. I just didn't feel like offensively they could do it.
I didn't think they could do it either, but they got some help in the first half with some points and then took advantage in the second half. It kind of reminded me of the first half reminded me of what we saw from LSU Texas A&M, except Oklahoma was able to capitalize off of that and keep that momentum going, and LSU was not.
Well, I think what was interesting to me is that Oklahoma actually took their points in this game. At the first, like they kept getting these big stops and turnovers, and I would just keep seeing them kick field goals. It was 7-10, then it's 10-10, then it's 13-10, and then it's 16-10. I'm like, if they had turned these into touchdowns, it's probably a blowout already. Sure enough, they find a couple touchdowns late, and Tennessee really struggled with interceptions in this game, protecting the quarterback. They had that big strip sack return for a touchdown.
Mhm.
So that's three big turnovers. And I think Oklahoma had one interception, maybe. So they didn't really turn the ball over in this game, which probably is what ended up winning the whole game for them. They took care of the ball for the most part, and they took their points. Tennessee is usually going to be a little bit more gutsy on fourth downs, and they really did not run the ball well in this game, which is a key staple to their game. When they don't run the ball well, they could throw for 400 and still lose, which is what they did. I think they had like 1.5 yards per carry in this game, which you don't typically see that out of a Tennessee offense. So I was very shocked, but given the fact that Oklahoma is one of the best defenses in the country, this shouldn't surprise many people. I think Tennessee outgained Oklahoma in this game, but they did not do very well on running the ball in this game. Third down wasn't terrible. So I would say that the biggest factors in this game were the run game and turnovers for Tennessee. They usually don't really protect the ball that well throwing it, so you'll see Joey Aguilar toss a couple picks, but they usually run the ball just well enough to stay in every game. Oklahoma kind of handled this game in the second half because they stopped the run and got turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, OU held Tennessee to 60 yards on the ground, and they themselves had 190.
Yeah,
Which
Oklahoma
I mean,
struggled on the run.
I would not have thought that was possible a few weeks ago, but Oklahoma's found a way to run the ball finally.
Yeah, I think that the emergence of their new running back has been a real ignite for the offense. Like not having a real number one back usually kind of sets you on an eight ball as far as what do we do on first down. If you don't have a guy you can trust to get at least 3 or 4 yards on first down most of the time, then that changes the way you call plays. So not having to overly rely on John Mateer and be able to actually hand the ball off, that's huge. And so Oklahoma now can do that. They give every single team that they play against a schematical struggle as far as what do we do on first down defensively. So, which most good teams can do that. And that's why it's hard to play against good teams because they can get yards on first down. But Oklahoma hadn't been able to do that until now. That changes this team moving forward for me. I picked Tennessee to win this game. I just thought that they'd be able to be the team that ran the ball better. So Oklahoma's defense shows up big on the road. They get a huge statement win here. Tennessee falls to is it 5-3 or six
Six,
and
six
three?
and three. Yeah.
So 6-3, no ranked wins. Biggest win is on the road at Mississippi State in double overtime. They dropped that one. They're sitting at 5-4. So I I'm kind of disappointed in Tennessee right now. I figured that they'd be able to hang on down the stretch, but defensively, that's probably where they've had the biggest letdown from last year. That's kind of what we thought we would see out of Ole Miss is their defense would be so bad, which hasn't been that great. It's just opportunistic, but we thought they would be so bad defensively that it doesn't matter how good they're on offense. They're going to lose big games. Well, that's how Tennessee's been this year. And they may still finish decent, but they're going to need to probably end up beating Vanderbilt if they want to even have an outside shot at being a three-loss team getting in, but they don't have enough good wins. So I don't see them being able to sneak in. I think this eliminates them from playoff contention. And unfortunately, Joey Aguilar's really awesome season has been riddled with big interceptions and turnovers. So that was something we hit on in the preseason is how much he turns the ball over. It doesn't matter if you throw for 400 yards a game if you can't
Yeah.
keep the ball safe.
Speaking of the preseason, we're kind of seeing Tennessee shape up to be the team we thought they were going to be before the season. We had them about around 8-4.
I had them at 7-5.
You had them at 7-5.
Yeah, and they're already six and
I
three.
might have had them at 7-5. I can check on that real fast for us.
But I think they'll probably end up having a chance to even beat Vanderbilt at the end of the season. That game will be really close. Even if they drop that game, they'll probably finish with 3 or 4 losses. So they would lose 4 games in that scenario. But I don't see them losing 5 games.
I had them 8-4, 4-4. So if they lose one more conference game, then we get that.
Who do they have coming up?
New Mexico State this week, and then in the swamp, and then Vanderbilt at home.
I could see them dropping those last two to be 7-5. Real chance. But Tennessee, a little bit of a disappointment so far. No big wins. So I think we ended up both dropping them out of our top 25 this week.
Yeah.
Granted, no SEC bias. Everybody's claiming that Tennessee was ranked too high because they didn't have any big wins. They already had 2 losses. Well, now that they've lost 3 games, I think it's time to finally drop them out.
I mean, their second best win is at Kentucky. Like,
Yeah, that's
uh,
not really a strong win. So that game was fun. I think this was a really good game. I think that OU needed this one extremely bad if they wanted to keep their playoff hopes alive, and they were able to do that. John Mateer didn't even play his best football in this game, which is back-to-back weeks that he's not played very strong. I think we're looking at a different kind of player right now. Not because just schematically there's any issue. I think physically he's not 100%.
no.
So down the stretch, be watching out for that. I think that's going to be the catalyst in some of these big games for them down the road. 'Cause they got a couple big ones left. They still got Alabama.
Yep, that's
That'll be
right.
really interesting. So look forward to watching that. Next, we've got USC at Nebraska. I think we both kind of telegraphed this one because Nebraska is
Nebraska.
just so bad in the clutch.
30 straight ranked losses.
I just don't know what to say about Matt Rule as a legitimate head coaching hire. I know he just got an extension, but I don't know why people are hyping him up so much. Like, he was terrible with the Panthers. I mean, he did okay at Baylor, but he never really won anything big. And then he goes to Nebraska and he's done nothing.
To be fair, Nebraska is just kind of cursed, but still,
Yeah, but
it
he's
it
getting way
doesn't
too
make
much
any
hype.
sense. Yeah,
You've got to win the big games at the end of the day. And Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss is a good example of somebody who struggled to win big games early in his first couple of seasons, but you get to year three, that's your team. And he started to win big games. So I think that that's what you need to be seeing from guys like Matt Rule. I mean, Ole Miss was not a top tier echelon SEC team when he got there. We were bottom of the barrel. And now we're a top five team perennially in the country as far as wins and losses the past 4 years. So, I mean, you got to be looking at guys like that and saying, yeah, those are the guys that you want to hire. Not saying that I want Lane Kiffin to leave, but Matt Rule should not be getting the kind of, I guess you call it glaze that he's getting from the head coaching market because it's ridiculous. I still think he's a solid coach, but he's not an elite coach. Nebraska overall as a team right now, they're not that great. I think we both expected this. They're solid, but they're not that great.
I mean, at the end of the day, they're still just Nebraska.
USC played their worst offensive ball of the whole season. I think Mayava was like 9 for 21 for 120 yards and like a pick. He did not play well. Think that they ran the ball probably better than they have all season with the lack of depth at the running back position. I was shocked that they actually ran as well as they did. King Miller had a really solid game, running for over 100 yards again. He's a really cool story if you want to check that out. But he's been impressive. I like USC to play some competitive ball down the stretch. They've got a big game against Oregon soon. They've got to play UCLA, which is a trap game. I mean, depending on how they play, down the stretch, if they run the table, they'll make the playoffs. But I just don't think this team has enough defensively to run the table. So it's possible, but this is usually where we find USC at pivotal moments in the season to drop a game.
For sure.
So I expect to see that. Nebraska virtually out of the playoff race. The Big Ten is just proving that their middle class teams aren't even that great. So I think Dylan Rowe actually got hurt in this game. Don't know that he finished. There's somebody else they had come. I don't know who their backup is.
They had a
But
dude come in and complete 5 passes for 7 yards.
sounds about right. So their offense really struggled. They basically just ran the ball the whole game, and didn't do anything offensively. They kind of just laid down and let USC win this football game. It came down to who ran the ball better, which is not what I thought would have happened, and USC wins. So not really much else to say about that game. It was pretty boring. I didn't really tune in for very much of it. It was just a who ran the ball better game. The next game we have is Cincinnati at Utah. This one, I don't think the score really tells the whole story here. Um, I didn't really finish this game because it ended up running really late, and Utah ended up running away with it. But there was a pivotal point in the second quarter where Cincinnati had the ball down 7. It was 14-7. They were entering the red zone. Brennan Sorsby fumbles.
Missed a
Utah
field goal
turns the whole
too.
game around.
They had a missed field goal.
Yeah, their kicker had been on a tear, and the announcers jinxed him, unfortunately. But he missed a 42-yarder early in this game. I think that would have been a chance for them to take the lead with a touchdown if he makes that field goal. So there's a couple pivotal things that didn't go Cincinnati's way early. Utah just held the ball for the rest of the game pretty much. If you look at total yards and third down conversions and turnovers, this game was extremely even and even leaned Cincinnati in certain statistical categories. But what it came down to was the run game and ball possession. And Utah had the ball for like 40 minutes in this
40
game.
to 20 time possession.
It
Yeah.
was ridiculous. When I saw that stat at the end of the game, like it made sense, but I was like, dang, I haven't seen a team dominate time of possession like that in a long time. That's really impressive. So it just kind of goes back to complementary football that you see from Utah. I mean, you can win any football game if you can play that way. Cincinnati is still a good football team. Like I said, I don't think the score tells the whole story, but that's a huge win for Utah. As they look to actually have a chance to be in the Big 12 title race at the end of the season, this game was huge.
Utah just plays a style of football. I would compare it to like a boa constrictor snake. Like if they're able to wrap you around a certain way and get you where they want you, they're just gonna bury you, just squeeze you, bury you, and just kill you. And that's kind of what happened here.
They're suffocating. You run out of oxygen, and no matter how you play the rest of the way down the stretch, they've already got you where they want you, and it kind of doesn't really matter
And the 2
anymore.
games where they weren't able to do that were their losses, so
Yeah, and it was against teams that were really good at those things.
yeah.
It's like Texas Tech is very complimentary. I think that quarterback play is one of their biggest struggles right now, unfortunately, for Texas Tech, which may end up being their downfall. But you look at teams like BYU who are undefeated right now. They've honestly, I wouldn't say they've really controlled that many games because they played from behind, but when they kind of get you where they want you, they end up taking over the end of the games.
Utah's closest win right now is by 25 points.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, they're dominant in their wins just like Texas Tech is. I think BYU is the most confusing team to me right now in all of college football. I don't know how I feel about them, but we're going to pick their game coming up here in a little bit, and I've got some interesting things to say about them. But this game was unfortunately a blowout. I ended up taking Utah at the last second in this game. I right before the podcast swapped my Texas Vanderbilt pick because I didn't want to pick against Diego Pavia because I did it when they played LSU and massively regretted it. And then I had been picking Cincinnati in a lot of these games lately and just didn't feel good about it, which ended up paying off, at least for that pick. So I think we both had Utah in this game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we both felt like this was just one of those games that Cincinnati was going to drop, and that's what we got. And they did a little bit more than drop this one, but credit where credit's due. They didn't play near as bad as the score made it look. The next game we've got, this game just this is so telling of college football and just continual things that we see season by season with different players and coaches, just stuff not changing. And Miami loses in Dallas to SMU.
Just Cristobal masterclass. This is
You
just how his teams are.
you've been saying this to me all season, and after the Florida State game, had some doubts about Miami's run game, and seeing Carson Beck throw a couple of interceptions, I was like, yeah, there's probably a couple things not to love about this team, but defense has been great. I mean, the receivers have looked really good. Like they just looked really solid. Sure enough, Florida State ends up being a pretty bad team at this point. They have a big win last
Yeah.
night, but
Nah,
they've been pretty bad. Miami was a total paper tiger. Cristobal teams always choke.
they're just frauds always, no matter what,
They're
until
like
until proven
Nebraska,
otherwise.
except Nebraska's the perennial 7-5 team that just never wins ranked games. Miami's the team that makes you think they can do good things, and then when it matters in October and November, they sell every single
Same
year.
stuff he did at Oregon too.
If you look back on most of Miami's good teams, like in the past couple of years, they finished with 3 losses, and they started the year in like the top three somehow. They like shoot up the rankings. People are like, the use back, and then they lose to unranked teams.
And you can look at their schedule and results and just tell, like, yeah, this team was a faker.
Yeah,
Like,
SMU has lost 2 non-conference games to Baylor and TCU, who virtually have no defenses. And then they also lost to Wake Forest last week, 13-12. Multiple chances to win that game and couldn't even win it. But then they played Miami, who's supposedly a top 10 team in the country, and up to this point, everybody had them in the top 3, and they get beat. Just straight up. So I don't really know what to think about Miami moving forward. Just not just this season, but in general. You told me your new rule is
never rank them inside the top 10 no matter what until something changes.
until they win a big game, like I'm
Well,
talking
they did this.
postseason.
They beat Notre Dame this year.
I'm
Like
talking postseason
until
big
they
game.
win a conference championship or win a playoff game, I'm not going to rank them in the top 10. I don't care if they're 12-0 and have the best wins in the nation.
All right, you heard it here. So if we end up continuing to do this podcast consistently, like I hope we will, next season, come August, when everybody starts to hype up Miami because of their transfer portal class and they come out with a big win, we're going to hold our ground. We're going to remember this moment, and we are not going to overrate this team, especially if Mario Cristobal is still the head coach, which
Yeah.
he may not be. They may drop another game.
With
They
the
have to
coaching
play Pitt,
market,
right?
the coaching market right now, he's not going to be going anywhere.
I bet he stays, and next year, if they don't get off to a hot start again and actually finish well, he's done. You
Probably.
playing the way that they're
With
playing,
the resources they have, like
like LSU. It's like they expect so much and they get so much and they just cannot convert with what they've got. Like if you gave teams like I don't know, it's I've always harp on Ole Miss, but if Ole Miss had the resources that teams like LSU and Miami had, we would probably be one of the best jobs in the country right now. With our program, the way it's trending, we're winning with less. These teams are losing with more. There's other teams out there other than Ole Miss. I'm just an avid fan, so like they're the first team I think of because they profile exactly what I'm talking about. But Miami with another disappointing loss. Carson Beck once again is finding a way to not really shoulder the blame after tossing a game-losing interception. His post-game interview, he basically just said, "Yeah, I just run the plays that are called, and sometimes I audible out if I don't like what I see, but I just run the plays that are called, so
Mm.
that's how it worked." And then he said that the defense was running the same play the entire game and or the same formation, same scheme, and they had no answers for it. So you're telling me that one of the best accredited staffs in the entire country, and supposedly one of the best offenses, playing against one of the worst pass defenses in the entire country, could not score on a team that ran the same thing the whole game? That's all you got to say? That's massively disappointing. If I'm a Miami fan, I'm at a loss for words. That makes no sense.
My Carson Beck take from the preseason just continues to age better and better.
Carson Beck hater number one is proving to be one of the most correct people in the country right now, and that would be you. So I'm a little disappointed because I thought he actually was going to be a lot better this year. I thought that maybe Georgia could have been the problem schematically for him, but he looks like the same player. Start off hot, finish bad. That's his trend right now. So
Something else too. I actually had Miami unranked in the preseason.
them somewhere really weird. I think I had them in the top 15, which is unfortunate, but I think we're both going to have them pretty low this week in our rankings, but we still have them ranked currently. But I see a
For
scenario where they
now.
drop another game,
Yeah.
just like last year. So we'll see how they finish out, but this feels a lot like last year. Next game, Navy at North Texas. I think we both figured North Texas would probably come out with a win here. We love Drew Mestamaker. This guy's a stud, and he didn't even have his best game, but he didn't play bad either. He did what he was asked to do in this game. Didn't have to throw for 500 yards, and Caleb Hawkins went absolutely stupid. Multiple touchdowns on the ground and took over this game.
I mean, they knew they could lean on Navy's defense and just kind of play ball control like Navy wants to do, and they beat them at their own game, really.
If you told me that the winning team was going to severely win in the rushing department, I would have figured it would have been Navy in an upset win. But North Texas ended up running the ball much better than they've ever really run it all season and beats a team that is triple option run heavy in the own way that they usually play games and win. So I'm impressed. North Texas has one loss right now. They're probably not going to make it to their conference championship because of the way that the tiebreaker situation is. But there's always a chance they do. And if they do, I like them to have a chance against Memphis if they play them.
That'd be a good game if that happened.
Yeah, I like it.
A
And
lot of
hey,
points.
USF is playing UTSA this coming week. They could drop that
Is
game.
that at the Alamo Dome?
I have no idea. I would have to check
If
that.
it's
But
there, that's sketchy.
UTSA had a massive win against Tulane, winning by several scores. Definitely felt disrespected in that game, and they really showed it.
It's in Tampa.
Their quarterback had an insane game. I think he had like 3 incompletions, and he had like
He had like 2 incompletions and like 4 touchdown
yeah,
passes.
it was ridiculous. He played awesome. UTSA has a couple of big losses already this season, but they've had some huge wins too. So they haven't been too bad. They scored a bunch of points on A&M, ran all over them early in the season. So I thought they might have been a decent G5 team after seeing them play in that game. Like what I'm seeing from North Texas though, so we'll see what they can do. They win this game 31-17 to advance to 8-1.
Crazy.
Very crazy. I think it's one of the best starts in program history for this team. The Mean Green keeps rolling. The next game we've got the first of 2 Pac-12 games this season, Oregon State at Washington State. We both had Washington State winning in a more high-scoring affair, I believe. This game was disgusting. 10-7 is the final.
Horrific football game.
Oregon State wins late in the fourth quarter with a really strange touchdown drive. They ended up finishing with like 70 team passing yards in this game, and most of it came on the final drive. I'm pretty sure they had plays of like 27, 21, and 34 yards or something like that. That might have been too many plays. I think it was like 27 and 34. They get down to the 1 yard line and punch in a touchdown after 2 plays. I think that was the drive. That was their only touchdown of the whole game, and they won late in the fourth quarter. They had like barely 200 total yards in this game. Washington State struggled to protect the quarterback and had a couple interceptions. Keep in mind, Oregon State was 1-7 going into this game. Only win was like I don't even know what the team
Lafayette.
was. Some terrible FCS team. So I can't believe that Washington State lost this game, to be honest with you. Given the fact they did have a couple really weird games recently where they were really competitive, I figured that they probably would win, by a significant margin, if not win and score a lot of points, and maybe it'd be a little closer than people think. But for them to lose this game was kind of surprising. But the character of this team has not been very clutch lately, so not surprised they lost in a close one, but the way that they lost was really strange. Oregon State picks up a big win, but we do get to see these teams play again at Washington State soon. So I think Washington State steals the next one
I
most
think they
likely.
win the next one too at home.
Yeah, they're gonna have a fire under them. This will be one of the first times probably ever that we've seen a team play another team in the regular season for a second time. So really interesting that that's where we're at with college football. But this game not worth turning on.